Okay. So today we're going to talk about the activities. No, remember that the last class, the last session, we finished the session with some activities, no, related to one stage of a reading lesson, no? So this is what we are going to start now. We are going to make a feedback, no, a fast feedback, as we usually do at the beginning of the sessions, a feedback related to the last session, right? So, a question for you. What are the stages that we usually have in a reading lesson or any other skills lesson? Can you tell me what stages do we usually have? Now, remember that we're going to talk about these stages.
Yes, teacher, we have 3 stages of reading.
Yeah, pre.
First, pre-reading. The second is while reading, and
Why
the third
reading?
is post-reading.
Excellent. That's it. No? So we have these 3 stages, no? 3 stages. And each stage, notice, each stage has a purpose. So you have to do something specific in each stage. For example, let's start with the first one, the pre-reading stage. In the pre-reading stage, we usually use 3 strategies. Can you tell me what they are? What strategies do we usually use in the pre-reading stage? Can you tell me? What strategies do we use? No, nobody? Can you remember about it? What do we usually do in the pre-reading stage? What do we have to do?
The first activity is important that the student know the purpose of the reading.
Yeah, this is one of the aspects. So you make your students, a purpose, a purpose for reading. You need to establish a reading purpose. So it means that you need, you make your students, have a purpose to read. They don't read because you want, no? They are going to read because they have a purpose to read. This is one. What about the second?
Knowledge reading, teacher.
The knowledge reading. Yeah, you're going to get some knowledge, no? Yes, you have to get some prior background knowledge. Excellent, Judy. So here you have to act. Good evening, good evening, good evening. You have to activate, no? Activate the and build, no? Activate and build the background knowledge or prior knowledge, no? Or schemata, no? Remember this term, no? The schemata. So it means the background knowledge, the prior knowledge that the student has, no? We have different kind of background knowledge, no? Or schemata. And what about the third? What about the third? First, here you have to establish a reading purpose. Then you need to activate and build the background knowledge. What is the third? Anybody? What is the third strategy that we use in the pre-reading? Remember, we're talking about the pre-reading stage.
Good evening, Mr. Gation. Sorry for the delay.
Okay, Vanessa.
Could be analyzing pictures.
Yeah, this is the activity, no? The activity that you use. Yeah, the activity, yes, yeah. So you use the activity of analyzing some pictures to guess, no? To guess or to have some knowledge about that topic that you're going to read, no?
Review the text to build expectations.
Yes, that's it, no? And you use, notice, you use here the pictures, images, or words, or the title, no, as Vanessa said and your partner said. So you have to preview the test to build expectations. So to generate expectations, what the students want to know, no? Don't forget about it. So when we talk about establishing a reading purpose, remember, the match between the content of the test and the student's familiarity with that content, no? The teacher's purpose, no? The teacher's purpose for having students read a test and getting the reading to establish reasons for reading, no? This is very important, a reason for reading. And the second strategy, remember that we talked about that is students, no? So you have to enable the students to establish their own expectations about what information they will find in the test and the way that information will be organized. And finally, you have here previewing the test. Remember that this is like an introduction, no? And it helps the students to recall any information they may already know about a topic. Getting to students to start think about a topic, it increases their interest in the topic and thereby motivating to read the test. So don't forget these 3 strategies that we usually use in the pre-reading stage. No? What about the second stage? The second stage is the while reading. While reading. And then we have the third one, that is the pause reading. In the while reading, what do we need to do? What is our job as a teacher? What do we need to do?
Teacher is a teaching job, teacher.
Exactly.
Yes. To the students the activity questions.
Excellent, very good. That's it. So it's our job because we are going to help the students to understand the specific content and to perceive the rhetorical structure of the test, right? So here, the teacher guidance is to ensure that the students assume an active questioning approach to the material. Notice, active. The students must have an active participation in reading, not just a passive, not to read, but their own answers and questions, and that's it. So they need to ask, no? They need to question, they need to interact. So notice here, the while reading, this is very important, no? To guide students that they can become active participants in the reading process. And what about the post-reading? What is it?
Review the lesson content.
Exactly. To review the lesson content. That's right. So it means that we are going to do different activities, no, like work in pairs or in small group, and they are going to compare and verify their responses to the questions or graphics, and then they're going to check the results with the entire class. No, this is one advice, one tip. Exercises could focus on grammar points, vocabulary, incantes, or word roots, or the course markers. No, the last session we were talking about this, the score markers. No, we have a lot. No, we have a lot of words that we use to mark something in the test. The final segment should be devoted to integrating the new information from the test with what the students know. So we are going to integrate these two information, right? The student's information that he or she brings to the test and the test information. So the student needs to codify, no? So notice this too. Remember, these two important aspects in the process of reading. All right. So, Leslie? Do you want to say something, Leslie? Yes?
Good evening, everybody.
Oh, good evening, Leslie. Okay, okay, Leslie.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Leslie.
Thank you. Sorry for being late. Sorry.
Oh, don't worry. Okay, okay, all right. Okay, so notice here the three stages, no, the three stages in a reading lesson. As I told you before, and I want to focus, is that these stages are repeating in all the skills. And don't forget, it doesn't mean when we, oh yeah, teacher, so this is a reading lesson, we're not to practice the other skills. No. As a whole approach, remember, as a whole approach, we're going to use the different skills, but we're going to focus more on developing in our students some reading comprehension skills, no, sub skills, minor skills, no. So we have seen a lot in the previous lesson, the previous sessions, all right? So this is the most important here, to develop in our students this reading comprehension skills. Don't forget that, but you could use other skills. No? For example, when you are in the pre-reading stage, so you can ask them to talk about a topic, they have to predict. So in order to predict, they are going to speak. So they are practicing speaking too, right? So you can do here a lot of activities, no? To do that. All right. So don't forget it. Don't forget. So let's continue. So the last class we were talking, or we were, I was showing you some activities, no? Some activities that we could do in the pre-reading stage. Now, we are going to talk about the while reading stage activities in the classroom. Remember, the activities that I propose here are just like an a tip, no, advice, some advice. You can adapt it, and you can adapt it because of the knowledge of your students, no, the language knowledge of your students, or maybe the cultural context they are doing your class. So it depends on you, no, it's up to you that you are going to adapt it. It doesn't mean that you have to do the same as it is proposed. No. It's just like a tip, all right? So let's see. In the while reading activities, remember that these activities help students develop reading strategies, improve their control of the foreign language. Notice here, improve their control of the foreign language and decode problematic test passages. So this is what they are going to do in the while reading activities. Another is to help students to employ strategies. While reading can be difficult because individual students control and need different strategies. So the teacher can have a knowledge, no? Oh yeah, this activity is not working with these students, but it's working with the other ones. So you can analyze and you can have a better understanding or comprehension about the different strategies that your students have. And you can change in the other class, no, and adapt to maybe the activity, all right? Nevertheless, the teacher can pinpoint valuable strategies, explain which strategies individuals most need to practice, and offer concrete exercises in the form of guided reading activity sheets. Now, here we use generally the famous worksheets, no? The famous worksheets in order to make a guided writing, no? So you're going to guide the reading of your students, and they are going to do different activities in order to comprehend, no? In order to comprehend and manage, remember, and manage the control of the foreign language. Such practice exercises might include, notice the different exercises that we could include. Guessing word meanings by using context clues, word formation clues, cognate practice. Can you remember what is a cognate? What a cognate is? Can you remember? Cognate.
Mother can be mother, important, similar to Spanish.
Excellent. Similar, no? similar words between languages or among languages. No, they are the famous cognates. No, as your partner says, important, similar to Spanish. You know, importante. No, modern, similar to Spanish, moderno, or radio. So you have the same spelling, different pronunciation. That's or doctor, different stress syllable, the same spelling, but you have different stress syllable. So we call this cognates. All right, cognate practice. Considering syntax and sentence structure by noting the grammatical functions of unknown words. Notice here is related to the improvement of the control of the foreign language, because they are going to analyze, they are going to consider the sentence structure and also noting grammatical functions of some words that they don't know. Analyzing reference words, some words that are related to previous ones or to later ones. So we call this reference words. Predicting test content, reading for a specific pieces of information, and learning to use the dictionary effectively. If you have into a deeper analysis, I think this is more convenient to use with advanced level students, to use the dictionary. Could be monolingual or bilingual, it depends. It depends on the context. Identify topic sentences and the main idea or paragraphs. So for example, here you have, this is, we are going back here. Remember that you have here these activities in order to control, notice here, control the language, the foreign language. This is the principal purpose of these kind of activities, in the while reading. First, to understand better the text, to comprehend better the text, but at the same time, you are going to analyze the language, all right? You are going to analyze the language to improve the management of the language. Don't forget the purpose of these activities in the while reading stage. So let's start talking with some activities. Let's see some of these activities in the while reading stage. One of this is identify topic sentences. Notice, to identify topic sentence. So identify topic sentence and the main idea of paragraphs. So the main idea of a paragraph is the author message about the topic. Remember, is the author's message about the topic. And we need to remember that every paragraph usually includes a topic sentence that identifies the main idea of the paragraph. So the text has a main idea, but at the same time, each paragraph usually includes a topic sentence. No, topic sentence, remember, is related to the main idea of the paragraph. So they need to identify, this topic sentence, identifying the topic sentence of the text, maybe the general or in each paragraph. Now, general and specific ideas. So they need to distinguish between general and specific ideas. General ideas usually express the main point or main idea of a piece of writing. And the specific ideas provide evidence to further define the general or main idea and prove that it is valid. So notice here these activities that we could do with our students. We commonly use when we read something in the while reading stage. They are going to identify topic sentences, the main idea of the text for each paragraph. They are going to identify some specific ideas into the text so they can prove that this main idea or general idea is valid. Another one is to identify the connectors. identify the connectors to see how they link ideas within the test. This is related to the discourse markers, no? We are going to use some conjunctions or prepositions or adverbs or expressions, adverbial expressions that they are going to link the ideas within the test. There are many types of connectors. For links here, have a look at these linking words group by category. So then I'm going to show you here this list, but we have seen it before. Now we have seen it before in the discourse markers. We have these connectors. No, they are going to, we are going to use these connectors, so these discourse markers, to have a coherence, a cohesion in what we write. And we need to understand it in order to get a better idea about a test. No? Another one is to confirm prediction. So they need to confirm the predictions that they did in the pre-reading stage. No? Maybe you ask the students, so what would it be the topic or the theme of the test, in order to have a background knowledge, the prior knowledge, and in this stage, they are going to confirm that. So check whether or not predictions and guesses are confirmed. This is something that can be done when a reading class might start with one of these pre-reading activities. No, remember the pre-reading activities that we have seen before, no? You show pictures to your students and they make guesses, know what that topic would be. So now on this stage, you are going to confirm those predictions, those guesses. Another activity or a strategy that we usually use here is skimming, no? Skim a test for a specific information. Oh, Abraham? Oh, yeah. Okay, Abraham. All right. So skimming, remember, is the ability to locate a main idea within a test. Using this reading strategy will help students to become proficient readers. Now, this is very important to develop in our students, to read the test, to find, not to locate the main idea of the test. Skimming reading will also help students to be a flexible reader. So they are going to identify the main idea and they could get easily the information they want. Another one is, another of the activities that we usually do in this stage is to answer literal and inferential questions. Literal simply refers to what the test says, no? What it really says. This is the literal comprehension and literal meaning of the test. On the other side, inferential is using the test as a starting point to get a deeper meaning. All right? So notice here, the test is just a starting point to get a deeper meaning. So you use the test to have more information. It's not exactly in the test. You're going to deduce, all right? You're going to deduce. And in order to deduce, you're going to use also your prior knowledge too, all right? In the inferential, we're going to use our prior knowledge too, all right? So don't forget, we have two ways to comprehend: literal comprehension and inferential comprehension. So we call this the inferring, no? The meaning of new words, this is more specific. The other ones was related to ideas, no? Ideas, the topic. Now they are going to infer also words. They are going to infer the meaning of new words using the context. So all language learners rely on context to decipher the meaning of a word. A reading strategy used quite a lot when you do extensive reading, no? Don't forget, we use this activity when we do extensive reading, no? Reading for pleasure, reading for general ideas, no? So we don't analyze the language so extensively. So we have to get just a main idea of the test, right? So in order to do that, we are going to infer the meaning of words because you are not going to stop. Oh, I don't know this word. Yeah, I'm going to look up in the dictionary. No, you don't stop. You don't stop reading for looking up new words. No, you just guess. No, you just deduce. You just infer the meaning of these words because of the context. No? Another one. Coding test. Coding test involves teaching students a method of marking so they can place a question mark next to a statement they don't understand or an exclamation mark next to something that surprised them. Notice, this is something special. So they are going to code the tests. They are going to write some codes. They're going to put some marks. If they didn't understand a statement or a sentence, so they could write a question mark or exclamation mark, no? Or maybe they are surprised, no? An exclamation mark, or new vocabulary, or new phrases, or new expressions that they have seen, so they can code them. When they read it again, maybe, so they could get a better idea, no? Oh yeah, I couldn't understand this part. Yeah, so let's check it up, no? Let's see what it means, right? Or maybe they learn new expressions, new phrases, so they write a exclamation mark. Notice here, we call this activity coding test, something that they found surprising, for example, no? For example, I made this question to my students, no? Something that they could find surprising, or they know or didn't know about the test. So you check, yeah, check the things that you already know, already knew, and the things that you didn't know. So, oh yeah, or underline or circle, no? So this is coding the test, no? Underline the things that you already knew about the test. Or circle the things that you didn't know or new for you. Notice, they are coding. They are coding the test. All right? Another activity is this. As I told you before, here, when we talk about reading, it doesn't mean that we're just going to read. No, it's impossible. No, it's impossible. Just to focus on one skill, it's impossible. So you're going to use all the skills, no? Or maybe most of them. This type of activity is one that promotes the integration of two more skills since you read the paragraph. You talk to a classmate and you listen to what he or she has to say. You can ask students to have a conversation after they have finished a paragraph so they can clear up any confusions they may have. Sometimes would you do that? No? For example, I remember that I use this kind of activity when they need to read, for example, as in an article, and they have two stories. Inside an article, they have two stories. So a student A read the first story, and a student B read the second story. And then you give them some minutes to read, maybe 2-3 minutes to read, and then they close their books, and a student A tell his or her story, and a student B tell his or her story to each other. Notice, they don't read the text completely. One read one part, and the other reads the second part. And then they need to speak. They need to tell the part that the student read, and the other the same. So notice, so you're making an active reading, and you're using all their skill. other skill. Then they can check up ideas. No, now change roles maybe, or now you read the story B. No, student A read the story B, and student B read the story A, and check up if your partner was right or not. Notice you are making this process of reading active, not passive. Interact. Your students interact. This is very important, no? And you use other skill, obviously. Another important skill, sub-skill that we use in reading is scanning. No? In this stage, we usually do this. Scan a text for a specific information. So you know, scanning is reading a text quickly in order to find some specific information. No? You scan when you look for your favorite show list in the TV guide, when you look your friend's phone number in your contact list. So you have this kind of activities that you make your students find some specific information that is, but quickly, notice, quickly, they don't have to last for a long time. No, just a few minutes, and they need to find some specific information. All right, this is called scanning. Another activity that we usually use to is answer a short quiz. No? This is a traditional way to assess if students have learned something from the reading. However, you can make difference by using online tools to collect those answers. No? Nowadays, we have these tools. No, we have a lot of platforms or apps. No, also you can use your cell phone. No, using apps or platforms or web pages. No, here you have, for example, Plickers or Google Forms. No, so you have here these tools in order to make this quiz more interactively. Or maybe you use like a game, like a contest, no, using Kahoot or quizzes. No, so notice you can use different activities like the traditional one. You made this traditional one into a more modern one using these online tools, no, these technological tools, preparing a quiz, and you can record this the answers so fast, no, immediately the answer, and you can record the answers immediately. No, and it's going to be a lot of help for you. All right. So then when we talk to the ICT tools, we are going to learn about these tools in order to make quizzes online, no? Using Google Forms, using Kahoot, quizzes, speakers. We have a lot more. All right. Yeah, Janela? Oh, no. Okay, okay. Because I saw Janela's microphone on.
Sorry, teacher. Sorry, I'm just getting. I was in a working meeting. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So you have two rooms, two online rooms. No, this is nowadays one of the benefits that we have, no, in this online education. So we can be at the same time in two different places. Something that something that we cannot do 2 years ago. No? If you are in a meeting in your work, you cannot be in a meeting or in a workshop. No, it was so complicated. But now, try to be focused. Try to be focused in order to understand here the session and also your meeting. All right. So notice here we have different activities. Notice that we have different activities to use in the while reading stage. No, this is the while reading stage. I'm giving you here some of them because we have more. Now we have more activities to do. Let's continue with the post-reading activities. The post-reading activities in the classroom. Remember, the purpose of post-reading activities help students understand tests further. through critically analyzing what they have read, and these are carried out after you have implemented successfully pre-reading activities and while reading activities. So notice here, they are going to expand their knowledge about the test and about the language. And also they are going to expand their knowledge of the world too, no? Their prior knowledge or background knowledge they had, now it's going to be increased, all right? Because they are going to understand that this further, analyze critically what they have read. But in order to do this, remember that you have to implement this pre-reading stage and the while reading stage carefully. No, they must be accomplished well, all right? So, post or after reading activities are helpful for several reasons. Notice here we're going to analyze some benefits why we have to use these activities after reading or post reading. It helps the students use the newly learned words, so they are going to insert new vocabulary in the management of the language, all right? They are going to absorb these new words. If you do well, there's 3 stages, pre, while, and after, so they are going to absorb these new words. It promotes the use of the language in creative ways. So they are going to use the language in many different ways. Not just to understand the test, because in the pre and the while, the focus is to understand the test and the language, no? To understand the main idea of the test or some specific ideas or some specific information or detailed information about a test. And also some aspects of the language itself, no? But in the post-reading, so they are going to use this language to do different activities, no? In a creative way. Remember that post-reading activities are freer activities that tend to focus mainly in 2 skills: speaking and listening. And notice these kind of activities, they are freer, they are not guided. Notice in the previous one says guided reading. So you're going to follow some guided activities to your students. But here, no, it is free. All right. And here we are going to focus in 2 other skills, such as speaking and listening. Let's see some ideas. All right. So I told you before, I'm giving you some ideas to develop in class. But it doesn't mean that you have to do the same. You can adapt it. That's what I'm giving you, is just ideas, no? How to do these activities. One of them is creative writing. For example, ask students to choose 10 to 15 words from the test. You can provide categories for the words. For example, the most interesting words or the most important words. Notice they are going to choose 10 to 15 words, and you can give a categorization of the words. Maybe you can tell them, yeah, choose 10 new words that you've learned during reading the test. You give them a categorization, no? The most important, the most interesting, or the new words, all right? Students then write a test using these words. This test could be a story, a poem, or news report. For example, I did this kind of exercise last week, no, 2 weeks ago with my students of 5th grade. No, they read an article about two news, no, because it was an article related to a newspaper, no, and then they need to rewrite, imagine that they were the reporter, the journalist, they need to rewrite this article, this news. But first, I told them to choose some important words to rewrite the story or the news. And so this is a creative. So they are going to do this way in another one. All right. So this is creative writing. Another activity is areas of interest. Ask students to say which part of the test is the most important or interesting and which part is not interesting or important. Okay? So they are going to speak. All right? They are going to speak. Which part of the test do they think was important or the most interesting and which part was not? So they are going to speak. Notice they're going to expand their ideas. It's not just what they understood. It's related to his or her own opinions or ideas about the test. Some of them, maybe the interesting part was not interesting at all, but the other, yes, this part, yeah, for me, this is interesting, but for the other ones, not. So notice here that you have different understanding and different comprehension of the test. Another one is creative discussions. Here, for example, you can prepare 4 or 5 simple questions and ask the students to talk about those questions for 3 minutes. And after that, ask one member of each pair to go and talk to another person of the group. So they are going to start talking again, no? They are going to start talking again. So the teacher, notice, prepares 4 or 5 simple questions related to the test, no? Related to the test. And ask the students to talk about these questions. You can give them some minutes. So here is 3, maybe 2, or maybe 4, no? Not too many minutes, yeah? Just 2, 3, 4, no more. Because the activity is going to be longer. If you give them more minutes to talk, it's going to be longer. So just 2 or 3 minutes to talk. And then one member of each pair go and talk to another person of the group. So they are going to interact, not with the partner they have, but also with the other students of the classroom. So this is in the pause reading. Notice that you are using the speaking skill. No? Another one. So you know that the teacher uses quiz or reading comprehension questions. How about a test, no? To check their understanding, no? If they understood clearly the test or not, no? To get some knowledge of the language or vocabulary. But notice here, now the students are going to quiz their classmates. So this activity can help us determine how much students learned during the reading. So what do you need to do? Ask your students to prepare. No, not the teacher, the students. The students prepare 5 questions about what they read. Once they have them ready, you can tell the students to make groups of 4, and then they can ask those questions to each other. Notice here. So they are going to quiz each other, not the teacher. No, well, it's obviously that the teacher did this quiz before, no, in the while reading. But now the students are going to quiz their partners. How much did they understand like you can make it here like a contest. No, yeah. This group prepare 4 questions, the other group 4 questions. And then they are going to ask each other by turns, maybe, no, or one of them is a representative and he is going to, or maybe they choose, no, for example, I use this, yeah, I think last year I used this, but this is gonna be a longer activity. Yeah? Be careful with the time. Yeah, be careful with the time. So I divided my class in 2 groups, no? And they prepare 5 questions and the other part prepare other 5 questions. And they choose one member of the other group. So the group is not going to choose their members, no. The other group, yeah, teacher, we want Carlos is gonna be the representative. Or maybe 4, if they have 4 questions, yeah, 4 students. So they choose, the other group choose the participants of the other group, right? So they can interact. It's like a contest. Notice it's like a contest. No, this is very important to create this kind of contest. No? We commonly use this. This is a common strategy to gamify your class. No, gamification. What is so interesting playing games for students, because it's like a contest. They receive some prizes, so they have to pass some levels and they have to be the first, no? So try to create this kind of contest in your class, no? They have to compete each other because students love to compete each other. No? They like this kind of contest. So I notice that you are doing it with a reading, no, with a test, and it becomes more active. Another one. Let's see another one. Finding related news. After students have finished reading, they can browse on the internet for a new related to something they read. Notice again, now you're using technology, so they can search some information, no? They can browse, no? They can search some information on the internet for a new related to something they read. For example, if they read something about moral and values, so they can find examples of altruism on the web, and they can share that information with their classmates. They can report the information they found orally or write some comments about it. Notice here. So they have read something, they have read about a topic, and after reading, so you may your students to find more information, something related to the topic that they read, and they can report that orally or in a written way, like a report. So notice that they are using different activities to expand. Remember, the post-reading purpose is to expand their knowledge about a topic, their knowledge about the language, and also their own knowledge, their prior knowledge, because they could have more information about a topic that they didn't know. And they use technology, no? For example, I told to my students a lot of times, you are in an age that finding information is so easy and so fast, and you can do it better, no? Because sometimes they use this kind of technology not in a good way, no? Just to find information, copy paste, no? So try meeting to change that, no? To change it. That's why here it says that they have to report, no? Because here, oh yeah, teacher, I found this. Yeah, all right, yeah, here it is. But what are they gonna do about the language, about the knowledge? Nothing. So try to tell them, now with this information, now you have to tell me orally, summarize it, change it like a report. You could do it orally or you could do it in a written form. No? This is very important to do. Another one, another activity. Notice here, prepare a survey. Students can prepare a survey about information they just read. They can prepare questions and the survey in class and ask the survey to their classmates, or they can go home and bring the results and report them during the next class. And obviously, as I told you, related to the teachers, when you prepare the quiz or surveys, so students can do it also using this technological part. No? So create surveys using Google Forms or Microsoft Forms, so they can use their mobile devices as part of their learning. So you use mobile phones in the class. No, you can use this part that the students use a lot. No, students use a lot of the mobile phones, so they could use it in class too. No, nowadays students use this. No? For example, when I play Kahoot sometimes with my students or quizzes, so I advise them to install the app, and they can do it better. No, they can do it faster. So you could use that. All right. But if you don't have maybe the opportunity to have this technology in your favor, so they can create on a piece of paper, pass the survey, and they can answer immediately. No, so you can adapt it. All right, you can adapt it. Another activity: parts of a speech. Do you know what a part of a speech means? What parts of a speech mean? What is that? Parts of a speech. We have seen it in morphology. Parts of a speech. No, nobody. No. Janela?
No, I didn't remember reading this. No, sorry, teacher.
Okay. Yeah, don't worry.
The parts of speech are noun, verb.
Exactly. Yes.
Adverbs, adjectives. Yes.
Pronouns, articles,
Exactly.
functions, adverbs.
That's it. Yes. Remember, parts of a speech.
They are 8.
Excellent. So in simple words, because this is the syntactical and morphological name, no? In simple words, parts of speeches, the different types of words. As you told me, verbs, nouns, adjectives, no? So here we have these parts of the speech, no? Prepositions, conjunctions, interjections, determiners. So we have different kinds or different types of words. So these are called the parts of a speech. So we're going to use this knowledge to expand. Notice, this is the purpose. So you can ask your students to spot the different parts of a speech from the reading, and then they quiz their classmates. Notice, not you, they interact like a contest again. Then they quiz their classmates, asking questions such as, what type of word is, no, they choose, no, they spot, they identify, no, they recognize some words. Yeah, I'm going to choose, maybe, again, you can divide it in pairs, in groups, whatever you want. So you can adapt it. Yeah, choose 10 words from the test. And you too, choose 10 words from the test. And they are going to ask each other, oh, what type of word is the word knowledge? Oh, yeah, knowledge is a noun. How will you use that word in a sentence? So they have to create a sentence, and maybe they can take the time, no? Yeah, 1 minute to create a sentence, or 20 seconds to tell me a sentence. And they are going to interact like a contest, no? Like a game. So here they can have a better knowledge, no? They can have a better knowledge about the parts of a speech. No, this is very important. But remember, they need to know, no, the different parts of a speech, no, the different types of words, because if they know, so it's going to be difficult for them to identify these words, no? So you can help them here. You can help them to identify, or maybe you can give them some extra time, no, to look for this information, or they can check an online dictionary or a dictionary. Yeah. So choose and check in the dictionary what is the part of a speech, and then they ask to their partners, no, and they interact. Notice they interact, no, by checking up the parts of a speech. And also they are increasing the management of the language, no? And specifically the vocabulary range, no? The vocabulary range. So you can do this like a game, no? As I told you, you can do that like a game. Another one, questions from pictures. This is another activity. Questions from pictures. Teachers shows a college and asks a student to look at the college carefully and how some of the pictures relate to the reading they did. So you show them. This is in order to reinforce, no, to reinforce what they learned in this reading test, no, or to check up some. To absorb some vocabulary related to the test. So you show to your students a college, and you ask your students to look at the college carefully and to analyze, no? To analyze how some of the pictures relate to the reading they did. So they have to analyze the pictures, no, the photos. Oh yeah, teacher. Yeah, I think this picture related to the test because, and then they start explaining, no, and giving their opinions. All right. And also you can do this like a contest, no? Yeah, there are 2 or 3 pictures. You show, for example, 6 or 7 pictures. Yeah, there are, from these 7 pictures, 3 of them are related to the test. You need to identify them. And you give, you know, a pair of pictures for each group or per pair. Yeah, the group or the pair who identify the 3 first stand up and say, here, bingo, no, like a bingo, no? Bingo, yeah. And you have to show them or stick it on the board, no? And you have to give reasons. Why do you think that these pictures are related to the test that they read? And notice, you can adapt here, no? And again, they are interacting. They are interacting. The most important here is the students interact with the information that they have read, or they read it before, and confirm with what they know about it or what they think about it, but using pictures now. There are plenty of websites and apps that can help learners create college. No, we have a lot. No, we have a lot of web pages and apps also that we could use to create colleges, no, Canvas, Genially. Oof, we have a lot of web pages and apps, no, for example, InShot. I think in the app is InShot. We have a lot. Another one, another activity, character analysis. If you read a story, there must be 1 or 2 characters involved. Analyze those characters and prepare a set of questions that you would like to make them. When all classmates have prepared their questions, ask them to give you their answers, and then as a group, try to answer the questions. Notice they are going to analyze. If they read a story, no? If they read a kind of a story or extract of a novel or a drama, no, or a play, so you can ask them to prepare some questions, no? And then they have to ask these questions, no? And give you the answers as a group, no? Or maybe one of the students in the group could represent and give the answers, no? So notice they are analyzing, they are analyzing the characters, no? The characters, all right? If they read a story, no? If they read a story. You could also use it with interviews. For example, I remember I used this, but with an interview. So they read a short interview to a famous artist, a famous actress, and I asked my students, what other questions, apart from the interview that you have read, no? What other questions would you like to ask to this actress? And they start creating the questions, no? And then they can find some information on the internet, search some information on web pages about this actress, and what would be the answers for each question. Notice they expand, they are expanding their knowledge again. Another one, using a graphic organizer. It is also known as a concept map or mind map, and is usually a one-page form with blank areas for learners to complete with ideas and information which are connected in some way. No? So they are going to create this concept map or mind map related to the test. It helps convey large chunks of information concisely. When the test is a little bit longer, so they can summarize it using these concept maps or mind maps. It also encourages the students to some strategic thinking, like describing, comparing and contrasting, classifying, giving sequences, identifying cause and effect. This is the benefits of using these graphic organizers, using a concept map or a mind map when they have a little bit longer test. Don't forget that the test must not be so long. So be careful on that. But we have this kind of test, so you could use a graphic organizer to synthesize, to sum up. All right. And you can use it with all levels and with all ages. This is very important to maybe to make something, some ideas convert into graphics. This is very important. This is very important to understand better. Another one, let's see another activity. Questioning the author of the book or a story. Ask learners to prepare a set of questions that they would make to the author of the book or a story. For example, this is better to use it when you make the extensive reading, Remember when they are going to read complete books and you are going to assess. How do you assess informally? Doing what? They can give you an oral report about it. Or this, notice, what questions would you like to ask to the author of the book, of the story, that they read? Another one, the end of the story. So this is another post-reading activity, and you're going to ask your learners to change the end of the story. Changing the end of a story to something unpredictable requires some thinking. All right? So you could use it with the stories, also with biographies. For example, I use this when I made my students read a short biography presented in a book. All right? And I told them, how could you change some of the actions that the character did? Try to change. Maybe the person moved to London. No. The person moved to another country and he started doing other activity. So they change. Notice what they read. Now they are changing. Imagine that this character didn't go to the theater. That's why he couldn't find that, or he couldn't realize that he wanted to be an actor. And notice they start changing. Here it says related to a story, but you could use with other type of tests. I think with biographies, or maybe when they read some conversations. They read a conversation and then they have to change. They have to change what happened at the end of this conversation or dialogue. Notice that they have to span. They have to use their knowledge and also the knowledge of the language or vocabulary that they have learned. All right. Okay. Let's see. One more. We're just getting to the end of this activity. After presenting these activities, I'm going to show you some web pages that you could use to get some material, to practice reading, to use with your students after these activities. Because we have seen the pre-reading, then we passed a while, and we are talking about the post-reading activities. Another one is to design a poster to advertise the book. This activity could easily link to the use of technology in the classroom. No, obviously, to design a poster, create a poster. Simply ask learners to create a poster using, here you have Pictochart or Canva or Genially, also with the same PowerPoint, no? To create a slide, and they create like a poster. Also, we have a lot of tools. And they are going to design a poster to advertise the book. Notice you could do this in the extensive reading, no? In the extensive reading after they read a book. So now create a poster advertising the book. And in order to create a poster, they need to understand well what the story is about, no? So you are checking, notice you are checking in an informal way if they read or understood the book that they read, no? In an extensive, no, I think this is most using when you do the extensive reading, no? At the end of this reading, so you can ask your students to create a poster, and they can use, or they can create a poster using the technology, you know, using some web pages or platforms or apps or softwares to create this poster. All right. Here we have finished with all the activities related in the pre-reading, while reading, and post-reading stage. As I told you before, the ideas, the activities that I gave you, maybe you have used most of them, maybe not. I told you that these are just ideas. You can use them and you can adapt it according to your necessities, according to your students' necessities or level or context. No, it depends. Remember that you need to adapt it, no? No, yeah, the teacher, I'm going to use it. Maybe it works, maybe not. So maybe the next time that you do, oh, no, it didn't work like my teacher presented me. No. I'm going to change a little bit. Remember that. This doesn't mean that they are fixed, that you have to do as I show you. No. So you can use it in many different ways. No? All right. Now, we are going to pass to some important part that is going to be helpful for you, not just for you, also for your students. I'm going to present some web pages that you could use. Yeah. Remember that nowadays technology is an important part in our job. Yeah? So we have a lot of resources. We have a huge amount of resources on internet to find materials, to upload materials, to download materials, to practice reading online, to use some platforms to check up your readings. So we have a lot. And today I'm going to show you this, and then we are going to pass to each page to check up briefly, because we have just minutes. Now we are going to check up briefly some of these web pages. But first I'm going to say what they are. All right. So here you have some links to online sources where you can find ESL reading activities for ESL students and teachers. One of them is the ESL Flow. Maybe you have checked out these pages before. Yeah, teacher, I saw this page and it was wonderful or helpful for me. So it's good, very good. Maybe some of them not, so you can use them. ESL Flow. What can you find here in the ESL Flow? It contains topical ESL reading lesson plans. Notice here you can find lesson plans and teaching ideas, plus lessons and exercises for reading students. So in this webpage, you can find ideas how to develop some lessons. Reading, specifically on reading, but you have from different skills too. The second webpage, Epic. This is like a platform, all right? Here, this platform has thousands of amazing books for K5, including fiction, non-fiction, and so much more. It's free, yeah, but not all. And then we're going to see it. Some parts are free, some are not. Remember that nowadays, some web pages that were free 2-3 years ago, nowadays you need to pay something. But most of this platform is free, specifically for teachers. Then ESL Galaxy offers printable PDF exercises to teach reading comprehension. The most popular type of these exercises is the test mazes that work like matching in teaching students how to read. Mazes, notice here we use mazes. Another one, Read Theory offers online reading activities for all ages and ability levels. The program adapts to students' individual ability levels and presents them with thousands of skill-building exercises that suit their needs. So notice here, online reading activities, not printed, online. Another one, English Club, contains links to English short stories from classic literature to help improve your reading skills. Another one that I'm going to use now in a few minutes, Into the Book, is a reading comprehension site that focuses on reading strategies teachers work on every day. Get practice using prior knowledge, making connections, questioning, visualizing, inferring, summarizing, evaluating, and synthesizing. And it's very interesting to recognize these strategies and how to use them. Another one, 5-Minute English, contains links to reading comprehension quizzes and activities covering a wide variety of interesting topics. EFL and ESL lessons and lesson plans. Here you have a huge amount of lesson plans. Offers teaching ideas for reading activities as well as links to readings and stories online. Then we have the World English. Contains links to reading exercises and quizzes. And finally, here you have 3 more. EL Civics, here you have worksheets. Each worksheet includes a short paragraph about an everyday problem a character can face, a true-false exercise, a writing prompt, and a black and white image. These reading activities are presented in PDF format, and you should be able to download them quickly. The other one, A4ESL, has ESL and EFL teaching resources containing links to reading comprehension activities and games. The links on the site have over 1,000 activities to help students to do self-study. And finally, something that is more related to culture, American folklore. You can practice reading English with their ESL short stories from American folklore, retold as S.E. Scouser. Some short stories have an ESL listening component. All right, so here you have different web pages, and now I'm going to show some of them. Let's see here. I'm going to change my screen. Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, I think this is it. Can you see what I'm sharing? Yes, can you see it? Okay. Yeah, here I have a lot of web pages open. Yeah. If you cannot see clearly, please let me know because I have a lot of web pages. Yeah. The first one, I'm going to put the links on the chat. Yeah, I'm going to put the links on the chat. Maybe you can check it with me. The first one is the ESL flow. Yeah, can you see it? Can you see the link? Yes? Yes, tell me, can you see in the chat?
Yes. Yes.
All right, yeah, this is one. ESL flow. Here you have noticed reading exercises and worksheets. And they are very short. Here says, really useful reading lessons for language classes are often no longer than one page, topical or on topics that the students can relate to and identify with. So here giving you some advice. Can include some pictures to give context and serve as an icebreaker or pre-reading exercise. Have a variety of comprehension tasks, including question and answer, multiple choice, fill in the chart, or complete the online formats. And below, you have the resources. Notice, reading collections. I'm going to open here my drawing tool. Just give me a second. Okay. Okay, so here you have one. Reading collections, topic short articles for students. Notice you have here 6 engaging one-page reading exercises, good collection of short line and line reading exercises on variety of topics. So you have for kids, reading worksheet kids, environmental news stories, reading and articles about hot topics about teenagers, breaking news English.com. This is very good. I advise you to check up this. Here you have a lot of information and it's presented like news articles. And it has the 3 stages. So you have the lessons prepared. The 3 stages, pre-reading, while reading, post-reading, and also with audio. Also, you can have the exercises according to the level of the students, basic, pre-intermediate, intermediate. Some of them are to the advanced, but most of them are until pre-intermediate and upper intermediate. Yeah, from basic, so they adapt the exercises according to the level of the students. Breaking news English.com. Don't forget. Then you have here worksheets exercises for reading students. You have a lot. Notice you can download it. They are in PDF. Yeah, they are in PDF. The ice cream cone, the adventure sports reading, emotions reading, mother buildings reading. So you have different topics. And also, if you are preparing or your students are preparing for this international exam, no, this is the international exam IELTS. So you have here some reading practice, no? Have you heard about the IELTS? Yes or no?
Yes, I received some information from them.
Okay, this is like the TOEFL, no? No, maybe you have heard more about the TOEFL, no? TOEFL, this is a very recognized international exam of English, no? Similar to this is the IELTS, no? But this is from Cambridge. This is English. TOEFL is American English, no? This is the accent. But don't forget that this nowadays this international accept both accents, no? Teacher, if I study at IFNA, so and I take an IELTS, so it's not gonna be good because I'm going to answer in an American accent. Maybe some words are different. Also, it's better for me to take the TOEFL. No, nowadays those exams accept both accents. It doesn't matter if you study American, maybe you study British accent. It doesn't matter. And here you have some practice. So some practice if you want to take the IELTS. So maybe one of your students, no? For example, one of my students from 5th grade last week asked me, teacher, I'm going to apply for a scholarship, but they require me to take the IELTS. And I gave my students some material related to this test. No? If you want to prepare for some international exam, I can give you some material if you want, because I have a kind of material, the TOEFL, the IELTS, the Cambridge examination, PET, CAT, FCE, whatever you want. So don't be afraid. Feel free to ask me. Now, let's pass to another page. Let's see the other page. Yeah, here, I'm going to put the link in the chat. This one is the ESL Fast. ESL Fast, as you can see here, is ESS, no? A huge free online English learning resource. So you could use it as a teacher. You have here for beginners, notice, start reading for children, start reading for children too, super easy reading. So you have different levels, and not just reading, you have others, grammar, scrambled sentences. So you have a lot. Intermediate learners, American culture and customs, English for New USA immigrants, ESL mini novels. Notice you have here the opportunity to read some novels, mini novels, and you could ask them to create a short novel too. A young couple's life in America, also for writing. And notice you have a lot. Let's see here one of them, how it works. Are you watching? Yes, start reading for children. Yes?
Yes, teacher.
All right. Oh, what's going on? Yeah. Here you have going to the zoo. You have this shortest, notice this is for kids. Huh? This is very, very short. So you have the opportunity to make and listen. And you have the audio, and then you have some exercises. Vocabulary. You have the vocabulary. You have here maybe the definition and meaning, no? So you have here more activities to do. You have a close. Notice a close. Close, remember, close means that you have some space, similar to filling ups. Yeah, so you call this close. Yeah, close. You have some close they need to complete. Online, notice these activities are online, so they can do it using the computer, no? So they need to write. Also here you have sentences. So they need to unscramble sentences. Notice, she goes to the zoo. So they do these activities online. Dictation. So they are going to hear and write. Listen and write. She goes to the zoo. And they are going to write. She goes to the zoo, no? And they start writing. And check. They can check. Oh, no, it's wrong. It's partly wrong. So they can check immediately their answers. Notice, this is the ESL Fast. Remember this link, ESL Fast. Yeah, yeah, this is it. Okay. I'm going to close this. Yeah, the ESL Fast. ¿No? ¿Están viéndolo, no? ¿Sí? I think my internet is not so good. Just give me a second. I think I'm sharing. Yeah. Can you see it well? Because I received a message that my connection is unstable. Are you listening to me? Yes?
Yes, teacher.
All right. Yeah, tell me, please tell me you cannot listen to me, or maybe you cannot see what I'm sharing. Yeah. Another one. Another. Now this is readtheory.org. I'm going to put it in the chat too. Yeah, can you see it? Yes? Read theory. So, as you can see here, improve your students' reading comprehension. It's free. Notice all the pages that I'm showing you, you don't need to sign in or log in. You don't need to put your information, your personal information. No. It's free. Here you have students, parents, or maybe you have to sign up. No? So you have worksheets. Notice the different worksheets. ESL, adult, 12th grade. No? So you have a lot of materials, all right? You have a lot of materials to use in class. And this is read theory, all right? Read theory. Now, let's pass to another one. Yeah, can you see it? This is a platform. Yeah, this is a platform. This platform is called Epic. All right, Epic. So I'm going to put it here on the chat. Yeah, you have to sign in here. You have to sign in order to use it. You can use it with some students, and you're going to present them some material to read online or as an assignment. All right. So let's see if it is open my account. No, yeah. Just give me a second. Yeah, for example, this is my account, ¿no? Because you have to create an account. ¿Ya? Tienen que crearse una cuenta. Es gratuita, all right? It's free, yeah? And you can insert some students into your classes. Notice here you have a class code, and you can give your student this class code. And if not, you can give them a link, all right? You can give them a link, and they have the opportunity to read some books online. So let's see. Notice here, this is my account, and you start looking, and you have here some categories. For example, you have chapter books, novels, volume, poetry, pets, sports, mystery, arts, fables, folktales, myths, listen and read along, narrative, non-fiction, poetry, writing instruction. You have a lot of topics here, right? Languages, also you have Spanish books, Chinese, French, and more. All right, let's see some of them. Let's imagine that you want your students read a fable. Let's see, Odysseus, right? Odysseus. And also, as you can see here, you can assign them. Pueden asignarle también para que lo lea. Esta es una plataforma, vuelvo a repetirles. Ahora, lo único inconveniente aquí es que no te acepta tantos alumnos. Como es prueba, es gratuito, que si quieres insertar más alumnos, ahí sí tienes que pagar. Creo que te aceptan 10 a 15 alumnos máximo, si no me equivoco, ¿ya? Pero yo lo que hago es le doy el link. Ahora les voy a mostrar para que ellos no se inscriban, que también hay un proceso que les das el código y a veces no entra el código. Lo que hago es le doy un link. Miren, acá. Vamos a abrir aquí. Y aquí, miren arriba en la parte superior, dice share, dice compartir, ¿no? Share. Dice que copy link. Y aquí, por ejemplo, lo voy a poner aquí en el chat. Este es el link para que lean ese libro. Ya está. Y ellos al abrir ese link van a ver lo que estoy viendo yo aquí. Uy, se me fue. All right. Sorry. Yeah. Notice this book is online. Yeah. All right. So they can hear what they listen or what they reading. All right. And also they have the opportunity, if they do not exactly the word, the pronunciation, or the meaning, they have here, and they click on the word, and they have a noun, a person born or living in ancient Troy, or maybe another one is staggering or destruction. Some of them have this, the pronunciation. I'm going to make it bigger. Just give me a second. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, spanning. What's a spanning? To measure by or as if they hand with fingers and thumb extended. And notice, so they have a lot of opportunity to read. Maybe they can do it extensively. Also, yeah, okay, my dear students, for this month, you have to read this short test, no? Odyssey, related to the Greek myth, ¿no? Es relación a la mitología griega, ¿no? Entonces, así pueden hacer una lectura extensiva, ¿no? Ya no tanto intensiva, sino extensiva. Y van practicando, porque también tienen ahí para que practiquen la pronunciación, ¿no? Entonces, en algunos de los casos tienen hasta quizzes, que dice Community Quiz Available. Se pueden, al final de la lectura, tienen como una pequeña preguntas de comprensión, ¿no? Y vuelvo a repetirles, da aquí en Share y crean un enlace. No les recomiendo tanto, porque esta es una plataforma, repito, que pueden insertar alumnos y van verificando su avance en la lectura, pero como es gratuito y quieren promocionar más que todo, no les acepta a veces tantos alumnos. Entonces, de repente van a tener un grupo de 30 y 10 van a poder, o 15 y el resto no. para que no haya ese problema, mejor le dan el enlace. Y ya que sea como una lectura extensiva, ¿no? No tanto intensiva. Que lo lean como placer, ¿no? Lectura de mitología griega o cualquier otra lectura que ellos puedan realizar aquí, ¿no? Que bastante material. Tienen ustedes aquí bastante material para poder brindarle a los alumnos, ¿no? Con audio, con quizzes, van identificando el vocabulario, ¿no? La pronunciación de las palabras. Es muy interesante esta página, miren, ¿eh? Es muy, muy, muy interesante. So don't forget, this is Epic, all right? Epic, this is the name of the platform, yeah? Now, let's see another one. A ver, el tiempo nos está ganando. A ver, acá. Here you have ESL Galaxy. I'm going to write the link here in the chat. ESL Galaxy. Again, here you have on this webpage a lot of resources. All right? A lot of resources, not just for reading. But here we have to specify on the reading skill, no? ESL reading worksheets exercises. So you have from different levels, beginner, elementary, pre-intermediate level reading exercises, word formation, prefixes and suffixes lesson plan, interactive prefix and suffix quizzes, and also you have different materials. You have board games, grammar worksheets, vocabulary worksheets, crossword puzzles, word search, a lot. You have a lot, all right? Here you have reading exercises, printable test mazes. Notice. For example, I'm going to show you one of them. These are the mazes, no? The mazes. So the test below is hidden in a maze. Can you find it and answer the questions that follow? Notice, and you have some questions. You have the reading, then you have some questions. All right? You have a lot here. You have a lot of material. You have a lot of material. Oh, I close it up. Yeah. Let's continue with the next one. The next page is English Club. EnglishClub.com, and you go to the reading section again because you have more than reading, all right? You have grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, listen, speak, read, write. We have a lot. Well, let's go to the reading. So here, what is reading, no? Reading tests, check how well you understand written English with this online test, reading quizzes, reading skills guide, why reading is important, how you can do it better, reading practice, reading for kids, short stories, read about sport, music, movies, environmental issues, health issues. You have a lot. Classic tests, reading exercises, selected proverbs. Similar to quotations, no? Remember that we talked about this activity, no? Quotations, similar to proverbs, morals. So you could use this to increase reading in your class. Don't forget, this is English Club. English Club. Another one. Let's pass to another one. Yeah. The other page is 5-minute English. I'm going to put it in the chat. 5-minute English. You have reading lessons. All right, you have reading lessons. For example, International Women's Day, a reading comprehension test on the topic of International Women's Day. So let's see. Notice you have a pre-vocabulary, International Women's Day, and you have this, the pre-reading stage when you pre-teach some vocabulary. Then you have some exercises. Each of these sentences contains one error. Find and correct the error. And you have to check the answers. No? Also, you can visit the webpage or website from the author of this reading lesson, and you can get more material too. All right? Yeah, English Club, in 5-minute English. Yeah. Let's see to the other one. Yeah, this is another one, and you have here a lot of lessons too. This is the itislj.org. You have, as I told you, EFL and ESL lessons and lesson plans. You have a lot, but we are going to focus on the reading. You have games, grammar, internet, listening, reading. Oh, here it is. Reading, teaching culture in the church, teaching the English newspaper effectively, read aloud and spot the difference. So here you have some ideas, no? Some ideas how to use different activities. And also you have some lesson plans, no? For example, this, 3 extensive reading activities for ESL, EFL students using ebooks, using technology. I'd advise you to read this. It's very, very interesting. Using advice columns with ESL students, another way to practice reading with your students, okay? So here you have a lot of material too. Let's pass to the other one. The other one is elcivics.com. Yeah, here you have elcivics for ESL students. So you have ESL reading worksheets. Each worksheet includes a short paragraph about an everyday problem a character faces, a true-false exercise, a writing prompt, and a black and white image. They are presented in PDF format and should download quickly. I suggest reading the stories to the class before assigning the writing exercises. Estimated lesson time, 20 minutes. So here you have this, the Arbor Day. It's a very short reading. Notice it's a very short reading. Then you have the writing. So you could use it. All right. This is very, very short. No? You could use it with your students from primary, maybe, or secondary level, the first grades. No? Oh, no, I closed it up. Yeah. ESL Civics. No? Let's pass to the other one. Another web page. Yeah, this is a4esl.org. Yeah, a4esl.org. Again, here you have a lot of materials, a lot of resources, not just for reading. You have grammar, places, vocabulary, idioms, a lot. All right, a lot. So you have here the reading comprehension. But here it says not for beginners. You can use it from secondary level, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, maybe. All right. Maybe you are teaching to teenagers or young adults, so you can use it. You have a lot also for writing. So you have a lot of material here to check out. Let's pass to another one. The folklore, no? Remember, one of the last pages that we saw is related to some tests, some reading related to folklore, American folklore. I'm gonna give you the link in the chat. So notice here you have United States folklore, Baker Dozen, a gift from St. Nicholas. So you have a lot of material to use. Maybe you can adapt it. No? If you say, oh no, this is too complicated to my students. So you can adapt it. No? A New York Christmas story. All right. And also you have the author. No? So here you can get material, no? And you need to adapt them. And let's pass to another one. The last one. Word English. Word English. Again, here you have a lot of resources too. A lot of resources, and you go to improve your reading. Here, improve your reading. You have English web quest, reading comprehension, mini reading tests, improve your reading skills, global newspapers, interesting news stories, 50 amazing facts. So you have here a lot. Now let's see in the reading comprehension. This is pre-intermediate English. You have to read some job advertisements. You have some comprehension questions so they can do it online. No? Exercise 2. Read the following information, different pen pals. Again, you have some comprehension questions. And then maybe you have some quotes. Oh, some definitions, some words. All right. So notice here, I gave you some of the pages. If you continue searching information, you can find a lot of web pages, a lot of web pages. Then I'm going to give you, to finish, another link. And here you can find more links. Here you can find more links related to practice reading. Ya, esta página les da más websites para que ustedes practiquen lo que es el reading. Aparte de lo que yo les he dado, están algunas que yo he utilizado. Y dice 30 awesome free or low cost. Algunas son gratis, otras tienen que pagar, pero bajo costo. Website for practicing reading. Acá tienen 30 más. Miren, 30 más. Por ejemplo, aquí está lo que les mostré. ¿Dónde está? Epic. Aquí está, Epic. Y les recomiendo, de repente ya el tiempo nos gana ahorita. La siguiente clase un poquito vamos a ver esta página que está relacionada a estrategias. Strategies, ¿dónde está? Into the book. Se llama aquí está. Into the book. Ahí vamos a ver así rapidito nada más. Bueno, ahorita ya nos gana el tiempo. ¿Ya? Las estrategias que se utilizan para la comprensión, ¿no? Inferring, prior knowledge, summarizing. ¿Ya? Entonces, esto sí rápido están como especie de un juego donde ustedes lo tienen que ir desarrollando. Well, okay, so I show you some web pages that you can use. Remember that you can use as a teacher for your students to get some material, to make your students practice online, to read online, to listen online. So as you can see, you have a lot, no? You have a lot. Nowadays, we have to use this tool, this tool, so you need time to look for these web pages. We have a huge amount of pages. ¿Ya? And I'm going to give you some web pages for each skill. ¿No? Les voy a ir dando así también por cada habilidad que veamos, les voy a ir dando páginas. Ya hemos visto lo que es reading, aunque también encuentran, han visto, que tienen para listening, speaking, algunas vamos a ir repitiendo, otras no, otras que sí son basadas en cada habilidad. Así que al término de cada módulo de habilidades, yo les voy a dar páginas para que ustedes lo utilicen y puedan encontrar bastante material para imprimir, para usarlo en línea, que lo practiquen juntos con sus alumnos, lo usen en clase o en educación virtual que estamos hasta ahorita con esto, ¿ya? O sea, tienen bastante, hay bastante. Les sugiero ir buscando, sigan buscando, ¿no? Y van a encontrar, pero una cantidad inmensa. Well,
I give my students teacher this kind of homework as a homework and as an activity in class, readings from 2 or 3 paragraphs, short readings, because they are not so. We don't have much time with students in our so
yes, I know.
We have to adapt, or we have to teach short readings from maybe from 1, 2 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs, and some activities.
You're right.
Activities like write true or false, complete some sentence, answer some questions, and they do it. They do it. They are a good number of students do it, but there are some that they, especially students from national school, they are not so able to do this. But students from particular, they can do it, and they do it well. So this is what I.
Yes,
what I do
you're
with
right.
them.
Perfect.
2, 3 paragraphs. So they, because now in admission exams, there as a part of the exam, there is English.
Yes.
San Marcos, for example, I saw the exam and there is a paragraph about medical, in this case for medicine, about medical issue. Yes, so students must practice from now, I guess. So that's why I give them some homework, an activity in class.
Yes, you're right, Vanessa. Yes, I know that the timing in national school, state schools is very, very short. Yes, that's it. But maybe you can give them some extra readings, no longer one as an extensive reading, no? In order to get interest, they can get interest, no? Into reading, no? This is very important.
Yes, and after that we solve and we read together and solve the problems together, so they can check if their answers are correct. Yes, I do that job, and they respond. To that.
Perfect, Vanessa. Very good, very good. All right. So yes, as I told you before, the activities that I show you, maybe they are going to have a longer time to be developed, but now it's your job to adapting, in order to make it shorter or to adapt it to the level of the students, to the time that you have to prepare your class, So now it's your turn to adapting. It's very important to adapt these activities. Okay, very good, Vanessa. Thanks for you sharing your opinion. Okay, well, we are going to stop here. Remember, we finished here talking about reading. Next module, we are going to talk about another skill. Another skill. Remember that these 4 modules that we have on are related to skills. We started with reading, then we're going to continue with listening, then we pass to writing, and we're going to finish with speaking. All right, so that's all for today. See you next week. Take care a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye, teacher.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye. See you.
Thank you very much.
You,
Goodbye.
teacher.
Bye-bye.
Bless you.